Hey, you summoned a lesser maker. The power's out right now. The winds in Southern California are going like 100 miles per hour. An hour north, LA is burning down. And so it's kind of crazy at the moment. I'm safe and my family's safe. We're going to take a look at Trench Crusade. Trench Crusade is a really cool game that's free to play. It's got one of the main creators of Mordheim who designed this game. So if you want to grab these rules, they're free in the description. As a dad, I do have to warn you that a lot of the art in here is kind of mature. I like to make terrain boards where everything is mounted to it. For me, it's easier. I can be pretty ADD, so having everything in one piece helps me out and simplifies playing the game and makes it faster, because I have kids and they want to play now. So pulling out 300 pieces of scatter terrain, modular trenches, and all that stuff just doesn't really cut it in my lifestyle. After playing the game, I learn what the game needs and requires, so I modify my boards. By the end of this video, you'll have a good grasp on how to do this cheap. You'll be able to have some terrain in a week that you can play the game on, and in the future you'll have something you can modify and improve. If you're looking for sheets of foam, a really good source for this is furniture. So I let some people know that I'm looking for this as a crafting material. Someone bought a table and gifted it to me, but you will forever lose your wife's respect, so proceed with caution. In the Trench Crusade rulebook, it specifies a 2-foot by 2-foot wargaming table, which I think is kind of on the small end. We're going to use this great stuff insulation foam that you can get from your hardware store for like $7. This is the best thing to stick foam to foam, and I couldn't find one 2-foot by 2-foot square in this box, so we're going to cobble it together on this cardboard that I found in the box to glue everything to. Now this is an expanding foam, so it will grow over time. The way I avoid that as much as I can is I squish it down really flat and knock out as many of the air bubbles as possible. And then I put weights on it. Typically when I build a table that's small like this, I like to add a lot of verticality, and I think the trenches are gonna add a lot to that. There's gonna be a lot of places to hide, and that will make your board feel bigger. You're gonna wanna make these trenches deeper and wider than you would think. I would suggest probably a 2-inch wide trench and probably a 2-inch deep trench as well, because you're going to be adding details on the sides of these trenches and on the bottom, making them narrower and shorter. I did mine about 1.5 inches and 1 inch deep. I thought this would be fine, but after putting some of the materials on, I realized they were way too narrow. I want this board to be set in a desert, so according to the Trench Crusade lore, a lot of the fighting happens in Jerusalem or in that area. I've actually been to Jerusalem and Israel. One of these structures is inspired by Absalom's tomb. That's one of David's sons, and that makes it one of the oldest structures there. It was really cool to see something that old. I'm from Southern California, and the oldest buildings are like maybe 50 years old at the most. It was kind of uncanny walking the streets in real life. It felt really familiar. And I forgot that I had played the original Assassin's Creed game. One of the main cities in that game is Jerusalem, and it is a really faithful recreation of the city. I made a free template of the cathedral bunker. I couldn't make this board without that. You can download for free, link in the description. My Patreon has a bunch of free stuff. I am really dedicated in helping you guys out with your hobby. So there are a bunch of free STL packs and templates you can download. And if you find value in them, feel free, become a patron for $2 a month or $5 a month. If you're not interested in that, just leave a comment. That makes a huge difference on how the video performs. YouTube really likes to push videos people are talking about. To texture this foam to look like concrete, I took this rock from my daughter's rock collection. It's a lump of concrete. I just press this in to make some battle damage. I just twist the rock on the foam and it really chewed into it. Who thought concrete could make something look like concrete? Go figure. Now I'm going to make Absalom's tomb. This is also included on that template, and I just cut out some foam strips into some different diameters, and I just kind of roughly followed this template. I wanted to make sure that it fit in the middle of this trench. Absalom's tomb's kind of built into a trench, like into the side of the hill, so I thought this would be kind of a cool structure. Now that I got a lot of the main structures built, I want to start adding a lot more of the details. For the roof of this structure, I got a watering funnel from the dollar store, and I'm going to be using that for the roof. For the sides of the trenches, I wanted to use these tin cans for corrugated metal, and this is really awesome because it's recycling a material that otherwise would just be going into the trash can. I cut it with some tin snips and flattened it out, and then I also grabbed some cardboard and delaminated the top layer, and then cut all these into little squares that I could tile across the board. I wanted to show you how this looked with both materials depending on what's available to you. If I were to have a choice, I would definitely use the tin can. I think to scale, this looks much better, and the cardboard does definitely work, and it's probably a lot more easily accessible. Usually I'm building stuff for Mordheim, so it takes some extra brain power to kind of not build something that's medieval. So I was struggling a bit for what to build for Trench Crusade. I thought it would be cool to make some artillery, so I used a dollar store church steeple and a train car that I used last week, some super glue lids, extra sprue, and bendy straw to make like an artillery pulpit. This is something that I saw in the rule book, wanted to add it, see if I could do it, and I think it turned out pretty cool. The next thing I wanted to do was make some barbed wire. My go-to method to use wire is to use pipe cleaner. So I singed off the fuzzy bits over the stove and then coiled it around a skewer. In all honesty, I think I coiled it too thin, but I do think this is a really good method, and if I just used a thicker dowel, it would have worked fine. After that, I went outside and I burned some craters with a lighter, and to fill up the rest of the board until I can think up some other things. Feel free to suggest some things. I'm gonna just put in some trees in the middle. To help glue everything down, I'm gonna make a texture paste with equal parts paint, sand, drywall spackle, and white glue. This makes a really durable surface, and it makes this styrofoam that would otherwise melt with spray paint. I applied this really thick in the trenches, and I used this as an adhesive to glue down all the popsicle sticks to act as duct board. The nice thing about this is you can just saw out a bunch of these popsicle sticks to length and then just place them in and then let it all dry at once. I also used a texture paste to glue down barbed wire, and then for all the foam pieces, I coated that in a black paint and PVA mix. And then I primed everything in dark brown to help the paint stick to the metal and just kind of unify the surface. Then I was able to stipple on all the sand, and I was really liking how this was looking. Craft paint is pretty transparent,
So I was able to stipple on a couple layers of this over the sand to kind of have some shadows in places and add some highlights as well. The rest of this is pretty straightforward. I'm basically just using basic base coats of craft paint, and then the highlight areas, I'm just adding a second layer on certain parts. For wood, I'm using brown, and for concrete, I'm using gray. I went with a lighter color gray so that when I add washes in the next step, they're a little bit more prominent. I didn't really want to go crazy on the painting yet. I decided to just base coat everything with regular craft paint. I didn't even do metallics because I do anticipate coming back to this and changing things up a bit. And that's kind of how it is with making terrain with rules that you're not familiar with. Obviously, I could have used my Mordheim stuff, but I always like to make things specific for games. To make washes, apply them really quickly, I always put them in a spray bottle. I got this from the Dollar Tree, and if I ever want it darker, I just spray it a whole bunch. And then if it's too dark, especially in the middle of the craters, I just dab it away a bit. I'm really liking how this looks. Let me know what you guys think, and let me know if you'd like to see me convert my Trench Crusade warband. I haven't quite decided whether I'm going to do some Trench Pilgrims or New Antioch or Heretic. I'm still kind of dancing around with the idea. Let me know what you guys are doing. All right, have a good one.